All over the Western world, hundreds of thousands of houses, churches, and public buildings with symmetrical fronts and applied half columns, topped by a pediment, descend from the designs of Andrea Palladio. He is the most imitated architect in history, and his influence on the development of English and American architecture probably has been greater than that of all other Renaissance architects combined. To many generations, his architecture seemed the perfect embodiment of the classical tradition, partly because of its obvious references to Greek and Roman antiquity. The essential factor is a sense of order of the relationship of parts among themselves and to the whole, that Palladio inherited from the great procession of Italian designers from Vitruvius, Brunelleschi to Bramante and Michelangelo. Palladio was born in 1508, and he grew up in the midst of one of the most creative periods in the history of architecture, not at the centre of things in Rome or Florence, but at one area outside that centre where a golden age is in the making, the Republic of Venice. Palladio was educated by Count Trisino, who was the preeminent intellectual in humanistic studies of Vicenza, a city outside of Venice. Trisino decided to house and to educate Palladio with the youngest aristocrats and gave him the classical name Palladio to crown his elevated status. When Trisino left Vicenza in 1538, Palladio may have accompanied him to work on villas and came into contact with Alvise Cornaro, who took great importance in the un-Roman and practical. Together with the teaching from Cornaro and Vitruvius, Palladio developed a unique style that considered not only beauty, but also structure and function. Most studies of Palladio's work are typological, and he constructed villas such as the Villa Pisani, Rotonda and Barbaro, palaces such as the Palace Chiericati, churches such as the Redentore, and even the Teatro Olimpico. A large part of Palladio's architecture is the construction of private houses, villas, that then served as models for public buildings. The style of Palladianism had a natural quality to it. Being natural in his architecture is to be rational in structure and practical in design, while also capturing abstract principle of beauty in designs. Thus, Palladio considered three things in every building: beauty, durability, and usefulness or convenience. Palladio derived the beauty that is found in his temple fronts in the use of symmetry and proportions. He guarantees durability if all the walls are plumb vertical, thicker below than above, and have sound, strong foundations, and further when the columns above stand vertically over those below, and all the openings, such as doors and windows, are above one another, so that solid is above solid and void above void. Supports must be and appear to be adequate to the load, and pediments, since they protect openings from water, should not be broken at the top. For convenience and usability, Palladio would connect the farmhouse and barn to the central living part of the villa. He would do this by adding wings that would also accentuate the building. In addition, through the use of column orders and exteriors, Palladio would convey the prestige and stature of the owner. Palladio also placed focus on lowering costs through a range of methods to offer practicality. For example, Palladio would plaster a circular arrangement of bricks for columns, took care to make walls thinner as they rose, and even left windows without decorative finish. It was important to Palladio that one must carefully calculate the entire cost involved, making provision for money and good time and preparing the materials that are likely to be needed. Securing costs would ensure that the building process should not be disrupted and brought to a conclusion haphazardly. Considering the importance of function, Palladio realized that in buildings, like the human body, there must be some parts that are admirable and praiseworthy, and others which are less elegant. In balancing the beauty with function, Palladio would often use a tripartite divide, and his villas would have 3 floors. The first floor, a rusticated basement or ground floor, containing the service, kitchen, and minor rooms. This would be underground. The second, piano novo, accessed through a portico reached by a flight of external steps, containing the principal reception and bedrooms. Palladio explains that when entering, the portico and main hall would be used for business purposes, and thus would need to show the most elegant parts of the building, such as the piano novo. The smaller rooms were divided up to create even smaller rooms, where studies or libraries could be located, as well as writing equipment and other tackle. Further to the back, there were larger rooms, spacious and oriented to the north. The final floor was the mezzanine floor, with secondary rooms and accommodation, and an attic for grain storage. Triadic division is made functional as well as formal by assigning the central core from front to rear, hall, entrance, or loggia and staircases. The axis of the entrance hall crosses the principal axis, and each room in turn has a cross axis. From the centre of the 2 lateral facade rooms, the whole depth of the building is revealed, and either a window or a fireplace marks the end of every axis. But there was far more to his naturalism than good engineering. Palladio's view of architecture as natural philosophy helps to explain unique qualities in his design, especially a subtlety of proportion, composition, and equilibrium. In order to scale his designs, Palladio noted use of ratios and mathematics, and presented them as guidelines for building beautiful and functional buildings in his book Quattro Libri dell'Architettura. Several architects have also provided shape-grammars for floor plans of Palladio's villas that can be studied to create unique buildings using his philosophies of naturalism. Within his first book, Palladio provides the framework of the importance of proportions and analyses the building details: doors, fireplaces, ceiling vaults, columns, windows, walls, entrances, stairs, frames, and roofs. The details of the proportions and utility of these parts within the villas is explored in depth using the Villa Pisani in the following tutorials. These parts in Villa Pisani Bagnolo will be analysed in whole when considering communication, symmetry, and harmony of the building. By keeping full control of the width and depth as well as the height relationships of the pieces of his buildings, and in the interrelationship of all these to the whole aspect, both in elevation and plan, the evolution of this truly three-dimensional approach to design is essential to Palladianism. Palladio's influence in modern architecture is vast, and his guidelines are in use in buildings at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, University of Virginia, White House, Woburn Abbey, Hammond Harwood House, to only name a few. Scholars have devoted their lives to studying Palladio, and he is known as one of the greatest architects in history.